Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody, and hello, Brian, and welcome to another episode of Art First. Good to see you, dude. Happy Friday. How
Happy
you doing?
Friday. Yeah, I'm doing well. I feel like we're getting into the fall. People are back from their summer trips. People are back on their computers. We're seeing a lot of fun stuff in the space, whether it's meme coins or NFT drops. I feel like there's an energy that's returning from the summer, and it feels good.
Yeah, it does feel like that. I mean, I know it's almost like people are willing NFTs into re-existence, right? If enough people say, "I think we're back," are we back? We're back, right? We're back. I'm pretty sure we're back. It's bound to happen, right? If we all just keep
Yeah,
saying it.
that sounds like attention economy.
Is that what
Um,
that is?
yeah,
It's
no, I think the
insane.
more people talk about it, the more interest people have. And so, yeah, it is a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it always kind of trickles down from the blue chips and works its way down. So
Yeah.
it'll be a fun fall. I'm feeling
Yeah.
good about it.
There's a bunch of events coming up too. I'm looking forward to it too, man. And with the fall comes like cozy fall things like sweater weather, right? And our guest today, our guest today is well versed in making wonderful sweaters and other fluffy things, let's say. And from pixels to what's the word? There's no like P to P, right? I was going for a P to P. I should have like teed that up. Instead, I'm just going to welcome our amazingly talented guest and
Pencils to
artist and
pixels.
designer. What was it? Pixels to what?
Pencils?
Pencils? Is it? I mean, it's pixels to plush. There we go. That was that
There
was
you
the
go.
one right there. Welcome everyone. We've got Gossamer Rozen on the stage. Rosen. I said Rozen. Of course, I messed it up.
Hi everyone.
Gossamer
Hello.
Rozen.
For
Welcome
Pickle
to Art
Plush
First.
Toys.
It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much for
And
having me. It's great to chat with both you, Brian and Adam. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's hard to, I mean, as Adam was saying, it's kind of hard to describe you because you're so multi-talented. I feel like I first discovered you via your illustrations that were extremely lush, dense illustrations. And then you kind of went down a path of spreadsheet art, which was insane. And then it became pixel art, and then it became physical wearables and physical art and all over the place. And you just constantly doing amazing stuff in each of these mediums. So I'm excited to jump into this with you.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll let you guys go first, but yeah, I think that's something so interesting about how people have, like, what area of art people have found me. Because sometimes it's through my tattoos or like my illustration or like some other, like one of the many things. And then they're like, wait, you've been doing this for how many years? It's like these other discoveries of like other like little mediums and like processes that I find an affinity to, and they kind of are starting to find more crossover, and that's some of the newer work I'm able to do. I'm able to really show how all these things get pieced together.
It feels
Yeah.
like you've got like Brian said, so that evolution of style and medium, but it feels all very cohesive, like you're building a universe. Like it feels, you've got all the plush behind you, and you've got, Brian was repping the TigerBob t-shirt, or sweater, but it feels cohesive. Even in the other work that Brian talked about in terms of like, the sketches and the detailed work there. Um, what's I mean, I'm really fascinated in general by pixel art. I've done a little bit of it, but it's sort of like it's a whole world, right? How do you go about like planning something like that out? Like I know you've got a new collection, which I'll throw that up on the screen in a moment, but maybe you could like kind of talk about like what is how does that start, and like take us through the process to do something like that.
Sure. Yeah. So I have an interesting relationship with pixel art where it's something I always appreciated, from the perspective of things like retro gaming, small like GIF animations, like the little like animate like little emoji characters and things like that, especially from the net art days of like the early the later net art days of the early 2000s, where you have like these pixel characters, that may be like dress up dolls, right? Like the dolls characters that existed back when we still had GeoCities and Angel Fire. And there are all these different ways of like customizing this physical avatar you had in your digital world, right? So this was well before we had phones that were powerful enough to take a photo or share video. So there were lots of really minimal ways that I think that people explored sharing their identity online when you really had smaller file sizes. And I still think about that today with profile pictures. And when I first saw NFTs and CryptoPunks, especially the pixel art, at first I was like, why is something so simple so regarded in this sense of finding this like really supreme place in culture? And it really reckons back to, you know, retro gaming, the limitations of computing, and the limitations of the power that a computer could have so that you could share your identity. And I really relate to that first aspect. And then the second aspect of that that prompted me to really explore creating my own pixel art was that I found finally this relationship of my love for textile work. I've been a textile collector for over 10 years. I've been collecting textiles from all over the world, especially from Japan, East Asia, different resist dyes techniques, and woven French tapestries and all kinds of quilts from the early 1800s from America. And there are a lot of different ways that these textile patterns throughout culture are simplified in this kind of grid-like manner when it comes to like a knitting chart or you know, the many kinds of quilting patterns as well that create the kind of log cabin quilts and all the stories behind all these different, very minimal pattern designs. And I really started to relate to pixel art in that way, actually. And that's why I started making my own pixel charts. And the first thing I wanted to do was translate my illustrative style, which many people know me by, which is really based in, you know, that's the thing that has been unchanged the longest. It's something that I've kind of been very self-taught about and chose consciously during college to not alter. So I actually studied sculpture during college. I didn't study any illustration work because I wanted to retain what I had cultivated as a young adult and as a teenager, that kind of style that is now very inspired by, you know, Japanese, American tattooing styles and a lot of illustrative work from all over the world, folk art, things like that. So yeah, that's kind of where I leap into pixel art. It really is from this kind of meandering world of feeling reminiscence of retro, you know, the way computing used to be, the internet used to be, sharing identity used to be, retro gaming, of course, but it really was textile work and my desire to translate my illustration style to textile that really pushed me to create pixel art and really start with TigerBob.
I mean, that's amazing. These are just gorgeous, and you can really see just like the inspiration of pixel art and like you said, grid patterns coming through in pieces like these. These are all pieces. These are hand sewn, I would imagine.
These are all hand sewn pieces from various vintage quilts from my collection. This was my first Gossamer Rozen collection of garments that I'd handmade back in 2020. There was a time period where everything had shut down here in New York, and I couldn't tattoo. Like I couldn't work at all. So I tried to fill the gap by, I was like, well, I've always wanted to make these clothes, and like now I kind of have to try and sell some stuff. So I put these garments together, and yeah, I did sell out of a lot of them. I do have a couple more that are still here, like this shirt that we just saw that I retained.
Wow.
And you can see all the hand sewn details. It's like really, there's just so many interesting ways that these textiles bring about the patterns, and like the curation of the colors have always deeply inspired the work that I produce in my knitwear.
That's really cool. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. You know, growing up, I used to do like cross stitching, and you get these like sheets with patterns that are just a grid of all these different symbols within it. And I never really put the two to two that is like pixel art. That's so smart.
Yeah, exactly. I also did a lot of cross stitch growing up, and I was trying to like chart my own designs by scratching like colored pencil and marker into these grid into graph paper. and creating these like new patterns and symbols. And it actually is fascinating finding antique weaving charts and other pattern charts for big tapestries, and they are all charted on a gridded paper. So it really is something that's very, I'm jealous of people. I really do want like an antique one to study, because they are really fascinating to see this old craft paper being used for art, you know?
Well, that's amazing that there is such a one-to-one relationship, right, to that way of making art and the digital side of this.
Exactly.
Look at that.
I love the eyeballs. I feel like that's one of your signatures. Like I can always tell. Have you thought about doing like a TigerBob cross stitch kit, where you like sell like the little
Actually, that's
circle?
yeah. I mean, I think that's totally not. I think that's totally not out of the question. I think that, you know, especially with having my store. So I have, for those who don't know, I do have a retail store for TigerBob, and this is also my art studio. So behind me, I have all these cute TigerBobs, but I also have all my yarn and all my materials back here. It's also my tattoo studio. So I have all my tattooing materials and my textile machines. And it's also the sales floor on the other half of the other store, the other half of the space. And being able to keep all those things together, you know, it kind of feels more like a workshop. And there is like a really kind of a vibe of like being able to host those types of workshops here, which I hope to be able to offer maybe next year. And being able to show people, especially different techniques to, you know, repair and like take care of their garments, especially like the clothing I make is very much, you know, something that I really want people to be able to keep and take care of, and not something that's just thrown away like most fast fashion is. And that was one of the things that was really important to me when I was starting this brand. The knitwear part of the brand was like trying to make objects with intention, which is part of the brand, and that also goes with the plush toys. And like trying to make them out of recycled materials, so all of them are made entirely out of recycled polyester, which is rare for toys. And spending the time to source these types of materials, educate my customer base and my fan base about trying to, if we're going to have huge digital identities, I feel like there's more of a conscious effort needed to be careful and selective about the objects that we have in our lives, right? Especially for any of us who are New Yorkers, we know how little space we have, right? It's like a lot more self-conscious about like the objects you have around you, and I really think about that a lot. So I feel like, you know, making like these like kind of hands-on kits where you can enjoy TigerBob in this kind of like manner where you make something or you repair something. I feel like those are all ways that I can engage my brand's key goals and virtues and all the things that I care about, and like bring that to other people.
I love that. So when you illustrate one of these pieces, like the kind of the ink, or, you know, the stuff that I would say is like based in more of your tattoo art. Mm-hmm. When you go about drawing that, are you drawing a rough sketch and then tracing it, or are you doing it more like you're doing a tattoo and you're just freehanding a singular like ink line?
Yeah, so my hand-drawn pieces they're very much I definitely do I do a lot of overall like blocking and sketches, like very traditional with my drawings. So I always start with sketches, sometimes thumbnails before sketches, and then I do a lot of tracing to get shapes and things in the right locations. I really do almost all of it by hand. There's very little that I will use my computer to do for my hand-drawn works. All of those are done in colored pencil with ink on paper. Oh, wow. Yeah, so I use the light box or a light pad very, very often for my hand-drawn works. And I'll often take those hand-drawn pieces, and then that kind of sketch I will turn into a pixel piece. So I haven't done a lot of... Yeah, so... You know, the shape of TigerBob's head and like his body, those are all based on the hand-drawn illustrations. And it was important to be able to kind of be able to go back and forth with the simplification of these objects. Since pixels have like a very specific shape, the square shape that has to work, and like trying to make a round shape with these squares and trying to make it legible from different scales. That's something I had to think about as well when I designed my tattoo work. So when I started full-time tattooing in 2019, I was drawing a lot, and it was the first time that I really had to simplify my illustrations so that they can really be these smaller, legible kind of chunks that I could also complete in a timely manner. I do all my tattoos by hand without a machine. So there's also the timing factor of being able to complete something reasonably for both myself and the client with the physical demands of tattooing without a machine. It's definitely a lot more. And so these older works that you see now that are scrolling up are black and gray. Those are from 2018. And you can see that there's like a lot of smaller, minute details that I have like begun to refine in my later works that are kind of more modern nowadays. You can see all these tiny, tiny details that become more I'm able to assign like a different shape or a color to simplify it for both my illustrations, and that did help, and for my tattoo work, and that did help with trying to create these pixel works.
Oh, that's really cool. Are you drawing on grid paper, or are you translating line art into pixel digitally?
I usually, so I sometimes draw directly on grid paper. That's definitely a fun way to do it. But I usually, if I'm designing my pixel work, that's where I do the work on my computer. So I have my Wacom tablet, and I usually am just sketching right in. I just use Photoshop. I don't use any special pixel art tool.
Oh, really? The pixels are all in Photoshop? Interesting.
Yeah,
are you like zooming in on a really tiny
just really
yeah, so
pixel
my
size?
is like 100 by 100 pixels, and I'll like
Oh, cool.
yeah, and I just zoom in, and I just use instead of the brush tool, I switch to the pencil tool, and I just start to sketch with like maybe brighter color, and then I'll slowly decide which pixels should go where with like the line work. And I always design everything in black and gray before I move into color.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Kind of just like to really get familiar with the light and shadow and form, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah. A
well,
lot
that
of
example.
yeah.
Just that example down below, you made a singular illustration, then you did a bunch of color variants. That one right there. So
these tigers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these illustrations are based on the TigerBob Genesis collection. Those were 1,000 tiger little PFPs I made. That was the first NFT collection that helped fund a lot of the later developments to make a physical store, make more art. So that was my promise that if for creating this work and like being able to sell the work, you got this artwork that you can love and cherish. And I was able to make more work. So being able to kind of expand the visual language of TigerBob from just a PFP was something that was always ingrained in what I was trying to do. It was never just supposed to be this finished. It was just the very, very first introduction to TigerBob was the TigerBob Genesis collection. So developing these full-blown illustrations with the 13 color palettes that I had chosen for the first selection of TigerBobs, that was something that really is helping me now with my new collection, which are the Elysian Garden playing cards.
Yeah, so, these are really cool. This is like I feel like the NFTs in general are suited for collectibles, and then, but I haven't really seen many playing card collections, especially ones that hit on like the nostalgia of pixel art and video games. And so yeah, where did this come from, and tell us a little bit about these. These are really, really pretty.
So I've always loved trading card games, playing card games in general, even earlier. It's interesting because like I think that like we're one of the first generations that kind of like between like I'm almost 35, so like between our generations, I think we're kind of within the same like 10-year age range. Like that was when the internet started to become more of a thing. So I wasn't walking around with a cell phone until I was like, I don't know, almost done high school. So like we were still playing card games and doing normal stuff, even though we had like N64 or GameCube or whatever. And like I feel like there's like that kind of like that straddling that line of like still having these physical game pieces that we like can identify with, and like having these digital versions of them. And I really always wanted to illustrate my own tarot deck in
Cool.
particular. I always loved just loved the whole process of the deck, and like how it's used for all different kinds of fun fortune telling games, and also just the history of playing cards has just been fascinating to go down that road to see how these card games developed in Asia and in Europe. And it's just really cool to see how much history and how much culture is still part of that world. And it's something that we can all identify with. Like everybody knows Ace of Spades. They kind of know what that means. It has a different meaning to each person, but they know what that card rank represents in some way. Same with the King Jack. And so I wanted to start making series of different kinds of card games, starting with the playing card deck because it's the most familiar. And that was also going to be a way for me to expand the canvas size of TigerBob from the 50 by 50 pixel PFP to like this larger canvas that can translate to this digital picture, kind of like these picture cards, and also eventually become more of like these larger physical tapestries that I can knit down on my knitting machines. And I have several versions of that I've started to work on. I actually have one to kind of reveal on the show right now.
Ooh. A little alpha. Let me move this out of here.
Yeah, so it's an example of the kind of work that goes into. So I'm simultaneously designing these pixel art, not just to be digitally legible, but they're all supposed to be
cool
knitted pieces.
Whoa.
And it's like 40 or 50 hours of knitting by hand.
Oh
my gosh.
All
yeah. That's like looking at the back of like a server rack.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so like the concept of these pieces I'm designing that are digital, they are directly correlated to these concepts of this physical piece that, has a sense of purpose as an object in the real world. And of course, there are different ways that these pieces can be displayed. They can be worn, right? You can have a sweater that you wear that has TigerBob on it, or they can really just be art pieces that hang on the wall.
I love that display. Like, it's inspiring me. Like, I got to go get all my fluffy stuff. And
oh, cool.
Well, this is
look at this.
This is a sampler that I made, knit in 2 colors. This is the exact same pixel format of the cards I made. And that's the reason why the cards are shaped the way they are, because this is the input for
okay. So the cards are designed at that canvas ratio for the printer. Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That makes sense. I was wondering why they were a little thinner than like a normal playing card. That's awesome.
Yeah, so all of these knitted pieces, I have an antique Brother knitting machine, and it uses this mylar that I draw each on.
Look at that. That's juicy.
So that's literally the grid. Got it.
It's like this itself is the drawing for the painting, right? This is the sketch for the painting. And like this as well is like a part of the piece that I make, is this like analog to digital to analog again. This kind of going back and forth between mediums and seeing the connection of all of these different processes being both antique in a way, but also very modern. And I love going back and forth to that. But that's like the huge concept of the work that I'm doing right now is
that's awesome.
Creating these pieces in that manner. Yeah.
It reminds me, the size of it also reminds me of those like kind of moo.com business cards that they make, the really tough and thin ones.
Yeah,
you can print it on that and make a little deck.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's crossed your mind, but like to possibly print a deck or print have them printed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't something I wanted to promise with like the cards themselves, but I have so many cool ideas. And honestly, what's amazing about cards is that they're just paper. Like they're pretty cheap to make. It's like prints, but you get these beautiful like holographic card. What if you get the card that you actually own in this particular collection is holographic, and you can get a custom deck that just has all of those, the 52 playing cards and your card that you own. I feel like there's so many little things I could do to make a physical collection that supports the TigerBob Elysian Garden playing cards in this kind of physical way that kind of supports the trading card aspect of the game. And it's like I always love trading cards, and I'm actually collaborating with one of my very good friends. He's designing an actual game, a trading card game for TigerBob. So we'll be working on something kind of fun, I think, in the future. But yeah, the art, this is all leading towards that new larger project, creating these playing cards and then a tarot deck, and just really like pushing the artistry of like, art games. We don't only engage in games because they're fun, like they're entertaining because of the art that's made for them. And there's actually a really great exhibit at the American Folk Art Museum right now that just opened on the 13th, where they are showing a large collection of game boards, Americana game boards, and different gaming objects from the early days of the American history. So there's a lot of different pieces that have been celebrated, but I feel like it's not something we think about every day.
That's awesome.
No,
and so
go ahead, Brian.
So this collection, is it currently available? What's the scoop? Is it out already?
Yeah, so it's currently minting now. There's a total of 216 pieces available. There's so far 69 pieces have been minted, so there's still plenty of opportunities to grab a few cards.
Nice.
I'd love to see them all revealed. If you mint nowadays, there'll be an instant reveal, so you'll see exactly what you get right away. So there's a lot more information on the website. I also have a great blog post, and OpenSea did a wonderful interview with me about my tattoos, my textiles, and my pixel art. And so there are a lot of new conversations that I'm able to share about this kind of work. And I'm really glad for the opportunity to chat about that with you guys here, because it really is something I think kind of new. And I'm really excited to share it with everyone.
That's really cool. And for folks that don't know, that OpenSea, if you go up to the top and press drops, that's where it's going to probably be at, right?
Yeah, it's pretty new. It might still be on the list somewhere. It did start minting about a week ago, so you might have to look it up, but I do have a link.
I mean, good news for everybody. At the end of the episode, as with every episode, any of these links that we have, we're going to share links that people can go and up on our Art First Twitter. So, and then both of us personally will link to that as well. So
definitely
do what we can, spread the word. But if you go to OpenSea and you go to drops, it is still at the top of the list there.
Oh yeah, it is. Oh, cool.
Awesome. It's in their rotation. It's always nice when art is the focus, and it really does look. They did a really nice job with this.
Yeah, I was really pleased with OpenSea's willingness to work with me on this project, and I'm really happy. They really did an awesome job. We had to do a custom workaround and gather all those JSON files to have the reveal before they were all minted out, and I really appreciate their extra work to make this all happen. It really was great to see that on the front page.
Yeah, anytime a platform can give an artist a spotlight like that, it's huge, and so it never goes unappreciated, but you love seeing that. Speaking of spotlighting other artists, we got a little segment. I don't know if you guys are down. You guys want to do a little show and tell?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, let's kick it off. A little show and tell. Okay. This is the part of the show where each of us has brought 3 pieces of art that we've either collected or just think is really dope, and we want to spotlight those creators and give them a little bit more love. Like I said earlier, all the links that we share here will be shared in our Art First Twitter, and everyone can go and just dig in, and if there's stuff available, go ahead and collect it. Yep, let's start with Gossamer. I'm going to go with one of the pieces that you shared, and that is right over here. Let's see. Boom. Look at that. Whoa.
Ooh.
This was a fun one to look at. Double Ziggurat.
Yeah, so this is an artist I've been following for some time. Kristen Roos. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's really interesting. Also doing some work with textiles. He has a double jacquard machine, weaving loom that he uses to create actually woven works that are based on these color cycling. He does a lot of color cycling work. That's based on a very old method of animation from the 70s and 80s, I believe. And that's what a lot of these pieces explore. And I feel like I really connect with this work in that way, that it's very textile adjacent. He's making the pieces themselves, and the textile pieces as well. It's just a really interesting practice. And he also does a lot of interesting work with music as well. I really wanted to highlight his work because I feel like it's very underappreciated.
I've never seen it before. That's the beauty of doing this part of the show, because
it's hypnotizing.
It is hypnotizing, but it feels like I don't know. It just feels warm and fuzzy. Something about it. I'm thinking of other artists like Sarah Zucker.
Yeah, I really love her work too. I feel offended for that.
Yeah, this sort of scan line, VHS style scan line stuff going on, and gradients. They're just gorgeous here.
Yeah, the white lines too really give it that kind of almost like Frank Stella feel.
Ooh,
but in motion. I love it. This is cool.
Yeah, and if you look at his textile work, you can see a lot of these pieces that color cycle like that. There are different kinds of jacquard weaving patterns that make that same kind of static representation of what you see here that I relate to quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm just looking right here. Let's see if this works. 1, 2, 3. Does that work? Yeah, I was looking to see his other work. Fun website though.
Yeah, it's fun.
Textiles. Ooh, yeah. Oh yeah, look at that.
So yeah, it's very, very fascinating pieces. A lot of antique, different kinds of weaving styles that are still used today.
I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, very cool. I'm gonna see. Can I do this? Can I find it? Where is it? Here is it. Good stuff.
Good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Very, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Bryan, I'm going to move on to a piece you shared here.
Okay.
This piece, Metascapes.
Oh yeah.
Number 1267. Which at first glance, I think to myself, is this like an ice cave by Kath Simmerd? And then I look and I see that that's not exactly a person, is it?
It's kind of true. So Metascapes, I went and scooped up a bunch of these this past week, because I think, I got some back in the day, and I look back at, this. People are going back and looking at what AI might be relevant as time goes on, and I think this was a really cool project where Kath and 2 other photographers gave their photos to a GAN. This is pre-Midjourney, pre-DALL-E, and they basically ran all their photos through it and created this collection of a bunch of AI-generated artwork kind of based on their actual photography. And so, this is just one of the pieces, but I just think, looking back at who was doing interesting stuff with AI early on, I think Kath and that team did something pretty special with this project. I wanted to give it a shout out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I always thought of this idea of taking my my kind of familiar illustrative style and seeing what the GAN would produce based on those before AI had exploded the way it did. And it's really cool to see when folks do have a very recognizable style, how that translates.
Yeah. The whole collection's a pretty fun, scenic photography stuff. But yeah, no, I feel like some of these get lost because they don't have these platforms that they're built around that are keeping them relevant. But I think this one deserves another look.
For sure. I love how like it's like it looks familiar and then something's just a little bit off.
Yeah.
Like
I think it's like it was January 2022, so it's still early AI. I appreciate when there's that weirdness to it.
Yeah. I've said it before on the show, but I'll use Midjourney and I'll take a prompt now and I'll just run it back into version 1 just to see what it does, because it feels like a nicer balance of like a weird fun output of what the technology, like I don't care that it can make a perfectly photorealistic human. Like I can do that with a camera. I love when it interprets what it thinks humans are. Very cool, man. Very good. All right. Moving on. What did I get this week? All right. So I found this piece here to be really, really awesome. And I don't know what is. I found the name for it the other day. This piece is Dualities, an artist by Joseph Sorala. Really cool, and also really great website too. But I've just been fascinated by this because it's not even just a simple loop. Like there's 2 loops that are happening in there. Even this could have been a one and done, but and all their work has this sort of retro vibe to it. But the fluid motion, and I love the cloud, and I don't know, all of this just feels really good. When you see art and you're in good hands. It's that kind of like feeling like, okay, whoever is doing this, they know what they're doing. I'm in good hands here. And that's how I feel about all of their work.
Oh wow, yeah.
It's just
okay. So this piece, it's been I've seen it before. It looks like it's from 2021. I love this artist's work. And that piece specifically, the hand
dualities,
having the little bit of anticipation back from the push, that's you can tell they know what they're doing, because that's
you can tell they're
animators.
Like there's exactly. Yeah, it's really fluid. It's really nice. So I just wanted to share that because they don't have I don't know, it didn't seem like this was like available other than just here's cool art.
I don't know. I've seen it before, but I don't know if it was ever minted or something. I guess. Great choice though.
But thank you. All right, we're gonna keep it moving. We are going back to Gossamer's pick. This one here, which is also not minted, but soon to be minted.
Yeah, so this is
Semiograph. Paul Prudence, go ahead.
Yeah, so Paul Prudence has been doing some really interesting pieces with charts and graphs, which are very, in my mind, very textile adjacent again. And I'm really fascinated by these pieces that kind of are like, they kind of remind me of like creating this like this language or this kind of this map of this unknown world in with your own characters and objects that represent different things. And it really reminds me of a lot of those kinds of visuals. And I feel like there's something interesting going on here that I'm really excited to learn more about. Paul also posts a lot of really interesting art and art related pieces that also relate to, in some ways, early computing and text, and a lot of different kinds of textile adjacent work that I really find fascinating.
Yeah, so this looks like it's going to be like a limited run series too coming up.
Yeah, because Highlights is generative. This is great.
Yeah,
it brings me back to what we were talking about earlier, cross stitching. This looks like a cross stitch pattern.
Absolutely, yeah.
100%, right? And all the little and this is a cool way to have detail within, like so the circles and dashes that are inside of some of these boxes just add so much vibrancy to it. so much like that's interesting. I actually never really thought about having like anything happening inside of a pixel, right? Because when you think of traditional pixel art, it's just the color block. But to see it broken up like this is really pretty cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of the kind of work I was doing with my spreadsheet art, where I had different, alphanumeric characters and other symbols within each of the blocks, and I feel like that adds a nice contrast or detail to like each mark, almost like mark making. And I find that that's very interesting done here in this kind of really intentional way, because it's like each character's like the character sets are like consistent for each of the pieces, and so are the colorways, which is I find it that's also kind of similar to Math Castles and the Terraforms project, with these different character sets and these creating these kind of blocks or these height maps represented with the SVG files, and I really find that kind of fascinating. Everyone has their own way of sharing their own this kind of grid-like structure.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And it
nice.
looks like it comes out in 4 days, so everyone should keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, September 17th. Very cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see like all the outputs that come from this.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Good share. Thank you. Let's see, Brian, what you got? What you got next, sir? Yes.
Yeah. So
this
is a piece by Louis 16. So, he's an artist I've collected on Super Rare for almost 4 years now. I've gotten a bunch of his works. I own this Genesis piece, and I saw this one and picked it up this week. I just think he does really wonderful looping illustrations. He does them all in Procreate, which hurts my brain sometimes to think about having to do this the hard way.
It's
but
fun,
yeah,
Brian. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I think his art's very aligned with my own art, so I'm very biased towards it. But I just love what he does. And yeah, no, I mean, you probably scroll down and see a bunch of his work if you click on the tag.
I love how it feels like Stratacut animation. Putting clay together and cutting it, and that always breaks my brain as far as like.
If you click on that top left tag.
Yeah, where are we?
Artist. Yep.
Come here. There it is.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So you said they're drawn in Procreate. So like he's drawing a brand new frame every time, or like, is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's all done via Procreate. Has like a basic animation. They eventually released their own animation software, but it was like you can make the layers, and then I think basically have to redraw the animated parts frame by frame.
That's the only way I know how to animate stuff.
Yeah.
I love doing it that way. I love doing it that way and in Procreate original. Like I've got the new Procreate, and I granted I haven't spent enough time with it, but I just know what I know, and I'm like,
that's like
the last thing I made. I just did hand animation frame by frame. I'm like, I know what I can do here. I know what I want. This is great.
Yeah. It really is a lot of time to create these. Yeah, totally understand.
Oh yeah. Good stuff, man. More Stratacut looking stuff. Like that's really
cool.
There's a really consistent color palette. I love that red, yellow, kind of cyan, orangey, yellow, cyan, blue. Perfect.
Wow. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right. We've got a few more to go. I'm going to go with this piece right here. Family and Genus by Lowbrow Native. Lowbrow Native is the artist. I'm not familiar, but I found this work by just looking around on Exchange Art, and it struck me. I think it's really beautiful. I don't do collage, but again, I'm kind of like attracted to things that I don't do, or find, outside of my realm of comfort. So I'm like, this is really cool. I don't know, analog collage. So it's even more fun.
So it was a physical, it looks like, 8x10 canvas. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, that looks really physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really shocked.
No doubt AI is getting better at it, but that's definitely, yeah, it looks like it was a physical.
Yeah, no, I mean, the film strips are cool. There's a lot of nice little details in there.
Yeah, look at that. And also, I also love the, this looks like a little shadow, coming from the
Mhm.
reality of having to photograph this because it wouldn't likely scan very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's kind of like that's always an interesting thing where, especially in collage art, when someone a part of the process to capture it, and make it a digital item, then bakes it into the item itself, right? Like or the piece, right? Because physically speaking, you move a light around and it's never permanent, but then you've tokenized something where you've put a light source into it and you've inadvertently made a shadow, or maybe intentionally. Now you've baked that into the piece. I don't know, I find that kind of these little tiny artifacts just really interesting, that
Yeah,
is a part
and
of the history of the piece.
kind of guessing how it's made, but it's like they put it on this texture background, but then they used a brush with some sort of finish on top of it all that really brings that texture out through the work. It's almost like a multiply layer,
Yeah.
physically, and it gives all these images so much more texture and life.
You can really see
Brings
it
it all
right here,
together
too.
nice.
Yeah, almost like a magazine image with like you said, the texture coming through. It's gorgeous. Yeah. And I think it's available. So there will be
Oh,
links.
oh yeah, very
1.25
affordable.
small. Super, super affordable. Very cool.
Very cool.
All right. Gossamer, we've got one more piece you shared with us. I'm going to click on something and see if it works. It did, and it did. Look
Oh
at
yeah.
that. Everybody's talking about Machine and the Ghost, so
Yeah,
much so that
talking about Did's work.
yeah.
I
Go ahead.
remember I haven't had a chance to pick up any of these artists' work, but I've been very much, alongside watching and seeing how these have been developing, and I really I wish I was less ignorant to on-chain artwork and these different program tools to kind of develop these types of pieces, and that's something I'm trying to learn more about, especially through the Math Castles group, and trying to understand that adjacency to the kind of more naive computing I'm doing, and I'm really fascinated with Did's pieces and how he created this dithering tool to produce them. Yeah, I feel like all these pieces are just so fascinating. I love the texture in the pixel art that happens with these pieces. I think there's something interesting about these limited palettes that almost look a little otherworldly compared to what some of them may have been represented from, like the photograph or whatever. And I think that that's really interesting. And I think a lot. I've been thinking a lot. I even shared this with him about jacquard pieces, jacquard knitting pieces that use 4, 5, 6 colors only, and how you could produce these kinds of strange dithering to create additional colors. And I've done that a little bit with two colors in some of my pieces, but it's really fascinating to see these larger scenes rendered in such a way. And I know that that's not new, but I really like Did's presentation of this work and the context of it. I think that gives it a lot more substance that we've seen from other folks who are kind of maybe doing something similar, or maybe it's just the fact that it is lower resolution and it just happens to look like that. I think there's a big difference in Did's intention of producing these works the way they did, and I really am fascinated by it for that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and it was great to see they were all over the timeline last week. A lot of people are enjoying them, including Mr. Brinkman here.
Yeah,
number
That one,
number
that one's mine.
214.
Yeah, I like it so much that I also submitted it, and Adam's like, "Hey, Gossamer already picked that, so find something." No, but that just shows that we're on the same page of admiring this collection.
Yeah,
it's really great.
I mean, there was another person I could think of who just dropped an awesome collection as well, but that's okay. It was just yesterday I saw it and I was like, oh damn, I wish I said that too. Because I knew that everybody was talking about Did's work.
Feel
But
free to say it right now.
I mean, let's why not? Let's get a bonus.
Yeah, so Jan, I think Jan Vincent.
Nope.
Oh no.
Suspense. Oh boy.
We talked her into looking at something and it broke it.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, in the meantime, I will say, it is a very fascinating collection. I played with the generator a little while back, and it was really cool to see how it works and turn anything into this. But like the fact that these are all on chain is also really impressive.
Yeah, no, that's something I keep thinking about recently with how our images are stored, and the more ways we can figure out interesting on-chain stuff, the better. Hey, you're back.
Hello, welcome back.
I accidentally clicked out of.
It's okay.
But I do have the link now to Jan's new collection. I think it's fascinating. I just threw it in the chat there. If you can grab it. So you made a piece called Selection.
Oh yes. I was looking at this the other day.
Just minted out the other day.
It already minted out? Dang.
I think so. Yes.
I love it. It reminds me of Photoshop when you have the selection tool.
Yep, it's the selection.
Oh,
Selection tool. And these, but you only see the dotted line animation, which is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Kicking myself
Very
for.
clever.
I mean, I have no money for art, but but I just love. There's just so much cool stuff getting produced right now. That's fascinating. And
yeah, I love this because it's definitely an art collection for artists that have like played with creation tools.
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
It's
that's really cool. That's a very meta kind of piece right there.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about how it's created, but it's
HTML and JavaScript. So I think it creates this. I'm just guessing it creates a randomized line, and then it creates that animation through it.
It's really nice. There's something really satisfying about that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's even more to it. I'll have to dig deeper.
All right, that is our bonus good stuff right there.
Yeah. Bonus good stuff.
Yeah. All right, we have two more pieces to go, Mr. Bryan. We've got this piece here. You want to say the name of that piece?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know. It's Jadu Han Baki.
Sure.
So I was looking.
Studio Yorktown is the artist.
Studio Yorktown's the artist. This is a generative project I believe on chain. But I found this because Ledger did a mint pass for people that bought their like fancy wallet. And so I didn't get one of those, but I went and I bought the mint pass and I got a random one. And they have a stellar lineup of like Sasha Styles and all sorts of people did these small collections for this. And this is the one I got, and I just love it. It's a collection of like Japanese vending machines that are all generative and unique. And so if you scroll down and click on his trait, you can see the selection of them. But I think it's just such a clever generative project, and I think the artwork's really beautiful.
It is.
Wow, such a solid.
Solid compositions. These would be wonderful little prints.
Love to see like little square prints.
A bunch of them, right? Like it would be great to have individually framed, like half a dozen of them. Oh, whoa! What's going on with this one? Nice.
Yeah, it's fun. So that was a pleasant surprise. So I think that those mint passes are still available if anybody wants to jump in and try it out.
That's cool.
But yeah, I feel like that one, because it was mostly given to people that pre-ordered and came out months later, it really flew under the radar. But there's some really nice little generative projects in here.
That's cool. Nice find, man. Especially because it was very targeted, and then to know about that, and like you said, you didn't go and get like the product, but you wound up getting the pass so that you can get the artwork, which is really
I technically have the product, but I didn't get the pass.
Right.
The
Mhm.
product's cool. It's a little nice little.
They're so cute.
They look really cool.
Yeah, I don't have one either. I needed like money to pay for other stuff, so I sold my soul. I couldn't justify
Hey,
spending that much on it. But
I know-
like, yeah, it's a really great tool. Like, I really love the screen. Like, I wish it looks so good with the tiger. Ian showed me like one with his TigerBob on. I was like, oh, that's so nice. The black and gray screen is so good.
I mean, yeah, your work would be awesome on it.
It's like
I think.
perfect for
Yeah.
I think fancy, smart, or fancy cold wallet or not, everyone should be using a cold
A
wallet
ledger.
and storing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean,
Ledger or other.
Ledger or other, but
protect your art.
Mm-hmm.
not as sexy, but it protects my art.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have
Yes.
like a bunch of them, so we got it.
You know,
covered.
I wouldn't say no if I walked out to my mailbox and somehow had one in it. I wouldn't say no, but either way.
Well, then
protect
now
it.
they have a new, cheaper one that is also an e-ink thing that is just a different form factor.
Mm,
So I know they're expanding the lineup.
very cool, man.
And now we get sponsorship money from Ledger. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Ledger. There's 673 people watching live, so it's not nothing. It's not nothing. All righty. Last but not least, this is a really fun piece that hold on. My computer just freaked out. Did you guys see it, or it was just me?
Nope, just
you.
All right. Well, Razer computers. Not saying I need a new one, but okay, here we go. That is not what I was trying to click. Thank you. We're just going to spend the rest of the time just describing products that we.
Shout out Micro Center. Shout out Best, but no.
Ooh, Micro Center. Okay, here we go. One day, Brian. One day. Oh, dang it all! It just does not want to show this artwork. It's really cool artwork, guys. I promise.
No.
I had there it goes. Come on. Good.
Oh,
Good.
Oh,
there it
wow.
is.
Oh, stop jumping, but maybe if it. Okay, it's.
Oh,
I know if I hit
loading.
refresh,
It's
you're
getting-
definitely.
It's
It's
trying.
getting smoother. with
Yeah,
each
it's
loop.
Is it? I'll tell you that, again, it'll all be linked up. If I hit refresh, you're never going to see any of it. I'll tell you right now.
It's really cool though.
It's so cool, and it's very Monty Python-esque. It's very, what do you call it? Like a lot of money, right? Like that sort of very whimsical, cutout, animated. But I hadn't seen, people really doing something like this since like a lot of money, right? And it doesn't feel like a lot of money piece, but it feels really good and really well thought out and fun.
Yeah,
Sunlit Symphony.
It has that faux physical with the drop shadows that makes it feel very tactile.
Yeah, I love that. And this is Novrisky Norman is the artist. Really cool. And there's that little like talk about it. Now it's playing
smooth now. Yeah,
now it's playing. There we go. Look at that.
Smoothly now. There's something really, really fascinating with this like digital representation of like physical collage pieces and like the actual photograph of the physical collage that you just showed before. And I love like that there's this like sense of time also, not only literally because this piece is moving, but just in the other piece, the time and attention to gathering each of those objects and putting them together in that kind of juxtaposed ways. Always fascinating from collage pieces.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Amazing. Very cool. It is available also. Super, super affordable in the digital world in terms of one soul. But that'll be linked up as well. We have only a couple minutes left here. Obviously, I'm gonna say, is there anything going on you want to plug, Gossamer? You got anything going on? Anything bad? One more time. Tell everybody about the project you got going on.
Oh yeah, we have the TigerBob Elysian Garden playing cards is minting now. It's been open for about a week. There's a little less than 150 tokens left. They're all one of a kind. It's not generative. I made each piece by hand. It's my pixel art, and I'll be producing all different kinds of work based on this. And the first piece in a collection of card games adjacent art game pieces that I'll be making over the next year or two. So I really hope you check it out. Help support the kind of work that I'm doing here, so I can keep making TigerBob and keep making all kinds of things to keep going. And I really hope that you'll enjoy your pieces as well. There's a lot of folks who collected pieces, and I'm really, really grateful for all of you picking up a few new pieces. So yeah, I'm really excited to keep sharing all the mints that you have, and I hope you'll check it out. Yeah, it's super fun. And I'm here in Brooklyn with my little physical TigerBobs. If you can't afford an NFT, you pick up a little TigerBob plush for $35. So I got lots.
And you have your own physical store that people can.
I have my own physical store here in Brooklyn. We're open Thursdays to Sundays from noon to about 5:30. Also, all the same stuff is also on my online store, tigerbob.store. That's the website.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the address in Brooklyn?
It's in the Industry City complex here in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. It's 5135th Street, Brooklyn, New York. Find it.
If anybody hasn't been down there, it's a fun area to wander
around. There's a lot of
afternoon.
cool makers producing cool stuff up here. It's also a great place to have a studio. So definitely check it out. It's definitely fun for the whole day. Accessible from the Metro on 36th Street, and also there's a parking lot. So if you have to come out from out of town, it's really easy to get over here.
Amazing. Awesome. That was well done. A+ on the plug.
It's the best
Thank you so
best
much.
end pitch we've ever had.
It is the best end pitch. It's usually like, you got a thing going on. I don't know. People can maybe go to my website. Like, nope, we are doing this. This is a global brand. This is TigerBob. Do not mess around, everybody. Thank you once again, Gossamer, for coming, hanging out. Thank you to everybody who showed up. Just shy of 700 people. What's up, everybody?
Wow.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. And we'll be back with another episode soon. And we will post all the links to all the things in our Twitter. So please be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and do the things. And Bryan, you got anything else?
Just shout out to the TigerBobs. Comfiest sweater around.
Woo!
And thanks for being on the show. It's great to have you. And
Thanks,
see everybody soon.
All right. We'll talk soon.